Assalamu alaikum, my brothers and sisters. This is Shema Farag from Stay Artistic Podcast. Today, I'm having we'll be having a great conversation with a new guest and a lovely sister of from our community, Sister Sofiya Abdullahi. Welcome, Sister Sofiya. Nice to
Thank
see you
you.
today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Of course. Sister Sophia have a very incredible, impressive bio. I'm gonna pull my phone. Sofiya Idris has a double bachelor's from the University of Washington, mashallah, in society, ethics, and human behavior in health studies with a minor in education and society, mashallah. She's a former grant recipient of For Culture, and Sofiya has put together community panels on her podcast, Shaah Sheeko. You can correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Tahiyyo Sheeko.
Yes, Shahiyo Sheeko, and
Yes.
to discuss controversial topics that are normally shied away from such as tribalism, divorce, colorism, and more. She has always had a passion for working with others through the form of storytelling and conversations. During the pandemic, Idris worked with Southeast Youth and Family Services as a cultural engagement facilitator, leading mental health workshops and dinners. And nowadays, you can find Sophia performing poetry, braiding hair in the community, and being a caregiver for her lovely brother Ali. Her love with working with others continues to show in her hobbies and work. Welcome, Sister Sophia. I'm so happy to have you today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Sister Sophia, so first of all, this might be aside of the list of my questions, but I just, and I am curious to know what's Shah Shiku, the name of the podcast you
So
share.
it it translates into tea and talk.
Tea and talk. Oh,
Yes.
okay, that's a
In the
new.
Somali language.
Okay, great. So it's really interesting to know that you have this passion in the community and have a podcast where you bring people together, bridging the gaps and introduce people to each other. So my first question here is we already have through your bio, so you go ahead and introduce yourself.
So my name is Sophia. I am a Somali American. My family moved to Seattle in '96. My parents and my seven siblings, and the rest of like my dad's side of the family. And we've been living in Seattle ever since. I was raised in South Seattle in like the Rainier part for 14 years. And now I live in the Beacon Hill part for the past 12 years. So yeah, I graduated from UW Seattle, I mean UW Bothell with a degree in society ethics and human behavior, which is basically the social welfare like degree from UW Seattle. So that's what it translates into. And then also health studies, which is like public health.
Mm.
After college, it took me about like 5 years to find a job in my career. So within that time, I would just ask myself like I don't know when it's going to be the time I'm going to find a job for my career. So what should I do in between that time?
Mm.
So I just started writing poetry, as a pastime. And then I have an aunt who works for Voices of Tomorrow, and she told me like I can introduce you to people, I can introduce you to different events where you can perform at, and you can be like you can get paid for your work. You don't have to just do it as a pastime. So
Mm.
she introduced me to some people at the Seattle Public Schools Symposium. And then afterwards, because she owns a nonprofit, she's like, there's grants out in the city. At the time, I never heard of grants. So I
Mm.
didn't even know like people actually pay you to do work in the community, like with
Mm.
your hobbies. And then she just helped me go through For Culture's website, and there was different like projects for cultural preservation, heritage. So I decided to focus on cultural preservation. So for the first like part of my project, I did cooking videos with my mom. So I realized that in our community, a lot of the kids they they lost their language, you know, and
Mm,
after language, the next thing people hold on to is food. So I was like, I can make cooking videos with my mom to show the intergenerational like bond where even if you can't speak your language, you that doesn't mean you can't be close to your parent, you
mm,
know, as a first generation American or Somali American. So I did that for 2 years, and then I realized when you cook food, this brings people together and this creates conversation. So I came up with the idea of like a community cafe where I bring people from the community together. We bond over food and then we just discuss like controversial topics that are shied away from. And I decided to call it, first it was called Holding On to My Culture. Then I decided to call it Shaah or Sheeko, since that's a Somali word that everyone knows. And I did this for 2 years from 2017 to 2019. And then when the pandemic started, I had to stop.
mm,
So ever since then, I haven't went back to it. But this past like year, 2024, I've been I try to go like in January, I was fired from the youth and family engagement job.
mm,
So I was like, what should I do? I should probably go back to school and get my master's, you know?
mm,
So to further my degree because I assumed I didn't have enough education. And then I got into the schools, but then I didn't receive the scholarships. And I went to my aunt in August, the same aunt, and then I asked her, like, hey, I got into school, but I didn't receive the scholarship. Do you think you could help me pay for it?
mm,
And then she was like, she basically asked me how much it costed. And then I told her, she was like, that's a lot of money. So
mm,
she told me, like, you know, you don't need a master's to become successful in life. There's a lot of people who have masters, but they haven't found their career job. And there's a lot of people who have bachelors who are still working with it. So if you don't go to school, what else can you do? And she said to me, you know, you used to be passionate about like the arts and podcasting and stuff like that. So why don't you go back to that? And I told her I'll think about it. I was disappointed that she couldn't like help me pay for the school, but I was just like, I'll think about it. And then I went and like researched different grants that were out. And there was one due in August. So I just applied for it really quick. And then it was basically like a grant from the mayor,
mm,
and he wanted to bring like the arts back to downtown, bring Seattle residents back like to the downtown area.
mm.
So I applied for it, and I said I'm interested in doing like redoing my podcast again, and like bringing people, different community members together, speaking on topics that are important. And in November, I received it, the grant.
Mm.
So, Alhamdulillah, I can go back to doing what I was originally doing back in like 2019. And I'm just excited to see where it goes this time around.
MashaAllah. So you got the grant and you're gonna be starting to work with the people in Seattle to do the I'm so excited for you and for culture it's not a paid ad or something. For culture is very known and of their work and their help in the community and
Hmm.
they are really great. I'm grateful for the people who are introduced me to for culture as well. They are very generous with their grants and they are very approachable. And
Yes.
even their website, they have added things on their website even to teach people how to write a successful grant proposal. So and they are very professional and mashallah, I'm so happy for you, sister. And mashallah, go ahead and you know just keep us in the know, you know, and keep us posted so we can update the podcast with the new where people can find your information, where people can find your work, so they can reach out and you know get to know you more, you know.
Yes.
So you probably have have answered the half of my next question, which is how you started. But you can go further if you want it. And there is another part of the question is why do you think your public awareness, the public awareness about your work is important? Why do you think it's important to connect people to your culture? uh, and restore the cultural heritage? What's important?
So I don't think it's important to necessarily connect people to my culture, but to connect people from from the culture to their own identity.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think when you have like pride in who you are, you show up different in the world, and you're unapologetic, and you're not trying to fit yourself into other people's standards. And outside of the culture, I think that's important as Muslim people,
Mm-hmm.
who live in the Western world, and everything in this like country is opposite of our like religious values, our religious norms. So if you're proud of who you are, you teach people how to respect who you are, but
Mm-hmm.
you're not trying to fit into their standards. And I think as a first generation, like, Muslim American, like we grew up when after 9/11 happened, and growing up with the like Bush presidency and like Obama also, and just seeing how Muslims were talked about in the media, I think that affected a lot of like millennials. But and a lot of people internalized it also. So I think if you like when you become an adult, if you don't like look back and see how the media kind of turned you against your own identity, you can you can always be chasing their acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go back and you look at like, wow, like Islam was misinterpreted the wrong way my whole life,
Mm-hmm.
then that's when you start to go back, teach yourself about your religion, and then you're just unapologetic about it. So I want to teach like other millennials that also, and just like Gen Z and the kids also.
That's amazing. That's, connecting people to their identity. That's really, really profound and missing because, sometimes you get turned away because of who you are sometimes, or because you
Mhm,
doesn't fit into their cultural molding thing. They have their own standards, they have their own molds that they want people to fit forcefully into those.
mhm,
And I'm glad that I'm finding more of these people who are pushed away to certain types of being reshaped and rewired are just pushing back. No, this is my
mhm.
identity. I'm glad to see more of that because we're done being turned away, we're done being pushed away, and
Yes,
it's us. That is us. You won't change that. I'm glad you're bringing this up and restoring this kind of mentality and way of thinking, mashallah.
yes. And I also wanted like the older generation to also understand like our struggles as well. Like
Mm,
yes, they did come here as adults, so they were more like confident about their identity, but we didn't get the privilege of growing up in our own countries. So we kind of had to build our self-esteem after making so much mistakes. So yeah, just receiving more grace from the older generations, and then teaching the other ones to be empowered in their identities.
Wallahi, you have good faith in older generation because some of them, yeah, they have only to keep it together in front of you so you won't be shaken. But sometimes they have their own, doubts and,
Hmm.
because, it's too much. It's when you're always against the cultural norms wherever you
Hmm.
live and you're trying even, you have, but, sometimes you have to inform. It's different levels. Sometimes it has to inform people, sometimes it has to educate people, sometimes you have to push back. It depends
Hmm.
on where the how people perceive you. And yes, it's important. Anyways,
Like a like a dance you have to master. That's what it
exactly.
feels like.
Yeah. So, and where people can find more information about your even past work or to contact you and collaborate with you, you can leave an email, a website, or something.
You can email me at Sofiya Idris at Gmail. And then for my old videos, you can just type in Ilm and Amaanah on YouTube, because that's the newer name of the podcast.
So, okay, you can type those in the chat, and I will add them to the podcast information so people can reach out and see your previous work and be inspired and get connected and restore their own thing.
Yes.
So I want you to tell me a story that inspires you or inspired you to keep your initiative up and running.
I would say in 2023, so
Mm,
my sister, she used to work at the YMCA, and
mhm,
one night she held iftar there. So she asked me to come like lead a workshop because since I was working with Southeast at the time, she's
mm,
like, we have teenagers here. Can you lead a workshop teaching about Ramadan? So I went there and then we did like Jeopardy games, trivias. And while I was there, one of the YMCA members came up to me and she was like, "Oh, you're Sophia, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Did you used to you used to have the podcast Sheeko?" And I said, "Yes." And then she's like, "What happened to it?" So I told her, like, COVID happened. I couldn't
mm,
bring people to my house anymore to do the podcast. And I just decided in 2020, I had a note that I used to carry to work. And I wrote down all my goals for the next 6 months, but I didn't know the pandemic would last that long. So, like once we reached 2021, I just crossed off the podcast on my notes. So then when I saw the lady in 2023 and she asked me like, when are you gonna come back? You know, we viewed you as like the Somali Oprah in the community. I used to look forward to your talks because it helped me understand my children better. And then I just told her like I don't want to come back to it. Like I'm over it. And then she was just like, if you need, I can be your guest. I can help you put panels together. Just think about it.
mm,
So that always stayed in my mind that it's bigger than me. There's
mm,
there's an actual demand for it,
mm,
even if I don't plan on going back to it.
mm,
So when I didn't get into like my master's and then I had the conversation with my aunt, it felt like I was just being like guided back to it again. So this past 2024, I just learned like when he takes something from your life, it's probably to replace it with something better. And as long as you just keep following the different like advice and that comes your way, and just like think about it deeply, then as long as you follow it, it's going to take you to the right path. And, there's nothing wrong with going back to your old passions and dreams.
mm. That's inspiring. I'm not sure if you have heard the podcast I did a few days back with the Ustaz Ruqayya Yaqub. She's an author and educator,
Yeah.
and she said something. I will say it. She said that she was planning something that her program would go to specific scope, but it didn't go the scope or the at the scale she wanted.
Mhm.
But she said that it doesn't have to be the door I planned might be other door Allah planned for me. So sometimes and most of the time you wanted something, but Allah give you what you need. It doesn't have to be what you want. And subhanallah. And but the thing is that as humans we have to be um looking with a widened eye on the blessings on what we're giving in Allah's replacement for what we wanted.
Yes.
You see, you accept it with grace, and you start to see its blessings. And
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be the door you wanted. And you know what? You can always pause and come back. Pause and come
Yes.
back. Yeah, and you have heard the impact of the work you've been doing to your community. And being a Somali American who speak both languages perfectly, bridging the gap between two generations is very much needed in our community because people from immigrant community, they miss the culture, and the
Mhm.
people who are born and raised in this community or in this culture are
Mhm.
missing on the values and the culture of their own heritage.
Yes.
So you're bringing something unique, and your Allah is sending you people to remind you of your the word, the importance of the place He has given you. So don't leave that away. We need you. Okay.
I
Okay.
definitely hear it,
Okay.
and I'm more open to it this time around.
May Allah bless you and bless the work you're doing. And I'm glad you're speaking with uh like it feels like you're so transparent and speaking your heart. And this is what I love about conversations with people like me here in the podcast. You're speaking their mind, you
Hmm.
know. May Allah bless you, inshallah. So about your service, what is the impact or the legacy you want to keep in your audience mind?
That's a big question.
No, but no, nothing is big for you, your sister, mashallah.
What is the impact and legacy? Um, I was thinking about this question earlier, and the thing that came up to me was the first word that came up to me was safe space. Um, I think everyone deserves to have a safe space and another human. And sometimes we don't always get that from our parents, but like Allah did bless us with a village. We do have cousins and aunts and siblings and uncles and grandparents, and we have teachers, coaches. So I think like something that I want to always do for others is be like a safe space. And I think that can happen through being a listener. Like I feel like a lot of people always compliment me for how much I listen and just not judging when people say things. And I don't think you can be everything for one person, but if you just a safe space for at least another human, or anyone you come across, I think we all need that. And I think sometimes we put a lot of pressure on our like parents for the things they didn't give us when we were younger, but we need to realize Allah was always giving us what we needed. We may not have received everything from our parents, but we did receive like bits of like love or attention from other people. So we can also give that back to people who are not our kids, or are not our family, but to like strangers as well in our community. And the other word I thought of was amana. I think we're all like entrusted to each other, whether it's your neighbor, whether like you're a teacher and you have students. What are you doing with the trust you were given? So that's something I always think about. I'm not a parent, but I'm always thinking about how do I leave other people, you know? So,
So how gonna do with whatever gift Allah has entrusted you with. So we're
mhm,
gonna do with this, right? So this is what you're always thinking about, and this is, mashallah, this is interesting because Allah, we are hold accountable. Whenever Allah is giving you a blessing, He will ask you whatever you have done with this.
mhm,
And may Allah always inspire you to utilize whatever Allah entrusted you with in good means and good ways, inshallah, and uplift your people and uplift your community. And you might not be given whatever you expected from others, but you maybe Allah have given you the light, so you give it to people. It doesn't have to be the other way around.
mhm.
Subhanallah. Uh, so that's interesting. So I have another question here. How do you think? I think it's getting a little bit, you know, repetitive, but you can go ahead and you just inspire me and just enlighten me with something I have missed in our conversation. So something you do and I haven't asked, I'm covered with my questions, or how people can support your work, how people can benefit more from your work. How do you see that? And go ahead and just feels like this is your platform and it's your podcast and you just keep inspiring us.
Do you mean like how they can find me, or
The what?
did you
Excuse
mean
me?
like how they could find me, or
Both, yeah. Yeah. How they could find you.
so right now I'm just working a lot on like the marketing aspect and just looking for guests. And there's like topics I thought about like addiction, abuse, gun violence,
Mm-hmm.
trauma, therapy, the importance of mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like someone who's in that field and you would like to educate the Muslim American community about it, then please message me because I'm still looking for guests. I have the topics, I just don't know who I want to interview yet. So that's been like the hardest part of like moving forward.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
you are so it's glad to know that you are specified in these areas and you are welcoming and you're just consider yourself a hub, a safe hub for people who speaks or can talk to the issues of mental health, trauma,
Mhm.
divorce, addiction, gun violence, and what else?
Um, Anything basically is marriage or any topic you're passionate about that you want to teach the community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and you, of course, your social work, social welfare background would help you, inspire people, so they can have informed decisions. They can have informed and educated conversations in those topics, and that's really important.
Yes.
Mhm. Anything you wanna add, or anything you haven't we haven't covered in this conversation?
I don't have anything I want to add. Nothing's coming up to me right now.
So I'm glad you have mentioned earlier in our discussion that you will be launching in April, I think.
Yes, April, right after Ramadan.
So we exclusive and Stay Autistic podcast. We have Sophia will be relaunching her work initiative and podcast and work, and she's gonna be back. Sophia is back.
Yes.
Inshallah in April. I'm so excited for you, sister, and may Allah bless you, and may Allah continue to bless you to benefit others and uplift others. And let me know if you have any questions for me.
I did have questions.
You have questions?
Yes.
Okay.
I
I
was
hope they're easy, okay?
they're easy. They're easy. I was just looking through your website
Uh-huh.
and I saw that you also did like poetry and a cookbook and you podcast also. So
Yeah,
I
but
was
they are
wondering
Egyptian. Egyptian. Mhm.
I was wondering like what is your why and why those three things?
The poetry, the cookbook, and the other one, what?
Podcasting.
Okay, so that's a big question. So the cookbook, I cook, and I have so many people, even if they are from my culture or from different culture, love the food, and
Mhm.
they ask me the recipe every time, and I share the recipe. And one time I invited the people, they are from American, white American, and she loved the food. And I told her, I'm going to Egypt. Do you want anything from there, a souvenir or
Mhm.
something? She said, I want a cookbook. I want
Ooh.
all the recipes. She was like, she's so excited. So I went when I was visiting family overseas. I was thinking about getting her a cookbook. I found a lot of cookbook, but all of them were in Arabic. None was in English. So they say there is a saying that if you didn't find the book you want to read, you write it. So I
Yes.
wrote it, and it was I did it during the pandemic. It was really successful, and even it was. I have I have 8 other books, and that was one of them.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, and it was mashallah was the best selling one of them. I didn't expect that. I said everybody knows the thing, but actually, the more when I came here to America,
Mhm.
I was thinking like the mahshi, the stuffed grape leaves is our invention, but it wasn't. It was everybody, making it. The Turkish, the Lebanese, the many people from different cultures, and they call it different names, and they even have stuff with different things. So it's my own identity. I think like restoring the culture, reminding the
Yes.
people, of the culture, and the poetry. I usually, sometimes you're feeling like you're full of emotions and you want to express it some way. And I
Mhm.
feel like arts is very positive way to let out your emotions without harming
Yes.
yourself or harming others. I have read and studied a lot in mental health, even if I don't have a degree in mental health, but I have a degree in science. But I always believed in self-help and mental health and it started when a few years after I came here. One of my sons was actually I just recognize some behaviors in my kids, like they are very sensitive, they get teary so much. Sometimes they ask about the weekend, you know there is some kind of emotional withdrawal. They resist to go to school. They ask me the last day, when it's gonna the last day of school, the weekend. So it was really, and it's seasonal. It wasn't like that a month ago, it wasn't like that a month after. So I learned eventually that there is something here in Seattle they call Seattle freeze. It's
Yes.
usually, yeah, I didn't know that. And I kept an eye out on other neighbors and other friends, and I see it happening to everybody around me. And one day, he had a very good friend at school. He was like absent from school for many days. I asked about the mom. She was pregnant and she was delivering the kid, so we went to congratulate her. And she mentioned, her and her husband mentioned something like this, and
Hmm.
about the postpartum and depression, and they bring the depression thing, the mental health crisis, and the depression to my attention. So I kept an eye out
Hmm.
since they told me. So, and it's really helped because, whenever you're recognizing the pattern, you're just getting
Yes.
yourself back. So that's important. So I keep an eye on everybody who do mental health work. And I believe in mental health. I believe I'm a fierce mental health advocate and I'm all for mental health people. And I see mental health is a big issue.
Yes.
So yeah, and I think that answers your questions. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I like one of your articles online where you said art is like the expression of, like, when people experience trauma, they go to art to express it because the other part of their brain turned off. So yeah, I like really that aligned with me. So I like to also write poetry too,
Mhm.
and I post on my Instagram page. It's called Love Letters to My 20s. So it was like everything I wrote that I experienced from age 21 to 29, and it helped like getting all that stuff out. Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up in a family where my dad was very sick, and it adds up to our emotional, balance. And we have to be the people who are. My dad is there's emergency something, and
Hmm.
my mom have to run to the hospital with him, and there's something happening, and there is always suffering. So you have to let out the negative emotion you have experienced, or
Yes.
else it will harm you. The toxins that your body is producing while you're anxious or you're depressed will harm your health. And alhamdulillah, Allah inspired me to think so. So I saved the rest. So alhamdulillah for everything. And I'm so happy to have you, sister, today. And I'm really, really happy for you. You're coming back. Go shine and let it shine. Okay?
Thank you.
Inshallah.
I'm
Jaza-
happy that that we reached out with each other and like made this happen.
Inshallah. Of course, of course. Let's keep connected, inshallah.
Okay.
Thanks for our listening, and I will post the wherever you can reach Sister Sophia in the blurb, and please reach out. And if you have any question, please let us know. My website is shamafarag.net, and our email is stayartisticnow@gmail.com. Assalamu alaikum and happy listening.